What's going on, guys? I want to welcome you back. Allow me to introduce you to Prince. Now, this guy is the most lethal Loki in all of Marvel Rivals. He's not just playing the character, he damn near is Loki. And at 1 above all rank, he carries a 9 kill death assist ratio, which is pretty insane. The guy's an absolute menace on the hero. Now, we're going to break down the master at his craft and spectate some gameplay of his. But before that, you're in luck because Loki happens to be my most played hero. So today we're going to teach you how to be a DPS Loki and the basics that you need to know that easily got me to Grandmaster and what this guy is going to be using as well. You're going to learn all the broken clone spots, Loki assassin basics, different flanks and playstyles, killer techs, and more. All right, so we're going to put everything together here. We're going to take you quickly to the classroom and what I like to call the subject of the art of assassination, aka the Loki basics. And we're going to start with step number 1, probably the most important out of all of them, and that is don't ignore healing. Today, I'm going to teach you a lot about cool damage stuff, right? High damage count, big eliminations, get flanking assassin kills, get rid of their support, save the team. But in all this, it's important not to lose track of the most important thing, and that is healing your team. Now, guys, the optimal kind of team composition with Loki and with this assassin type build is going to be the triple support, right? Pretty common right now in Rivals. You probably see it everywhere. This allows your team to not focus on why you're not with them. You got 2 strategists keeping your tanks up, maybe the 1 DPS, and you as Loki are going to do far more than what a DPS or tank could do. You're going to do huge damage, clutch eliminations, keep the team alive with the rune stones, use your ultimate to copy the right ultimate at the right time. There's a lot more that you can offer, but this is much easier done if you have 2 other strategists. If not, no big deal. You're just going to have to pay a little bit more attention to how the team's health is doing and take maybe the road more traveled and not as much flank routes. Which brings you and I to step number 2, and that is ignore the stats, right? You're going to have an easy time getting MVP when you get things locked down, ready to go. But when things go bad, and again, they're going to go bad, your team's going to point to you right away. Look at the Loki. He did nothing for healing. What the hell's going on around here? Loki, you suck. You should be in bronze. I've heard it all. Here's the thing, guys. You're never going to match Mantis, Luna, not even damn near anything close to Cloak. But your damage and your healing together should show the story good enough. You know, these stats don't show that you saved the team from the Iron Man ult or that you had the clutch ultimate to get everything going on the payload. It doesn't tell that. It just shows a small sample size, and Loki's story is not well told in the stat section. Now, that being said, you should not have like 6k healing and like 7k damage. That's going to look pretty bad. Now, the only stat that does matter is your deaths. You should never have anywhere close to the highest deaths on your team. Unless you're really going out there and flanking and trading and doing the right stuff. You have so many ways to escape in the game. You've got invisibility. You can cloak teleport away. You've got the rune stone. You should not be dying. And so the stat you should be paying attention to, and one that if you have high deaths, you should know right away, that's the first thing you got going wrong, right? You should not be dying as Loki. It's the best part about his entire kit. Okay, step number 3. Be gone, but not for too long, right? Your team needs you, and you need them, and you can't be invisible going all around. Yes, they can't see you, but you got to remember this. They can hear you. Your footsteps are extremely loud, so if they expect you're there, you need to be very still, or they're going to find you and blend in with your surroundings. Taking good flank routes, but not very long ones, is clutch, especially ones where you still have a line of sight with your team, line of sight with your clones. This is all super important when learning this style of Loki, and more on this a bit later. Now, the last step, guys, is step number 4, and that is clone management. Now, line of sight, as I just referenced, is so important with your clones, not only for damaging the opponent, but for healing. Let me say that one more time. For healing your team with your clones. Now, in clones, you have 2 different kind of loadouts you can do. You have the instant, you want to burst down, try to get a quick kill or a quick flank kill, and you put 2 next to you or like a triangle, and you just barrage the enemy. It works. It's pretty good. It's okay, but the bad news is one Moon Knight, you're going to die, or they can just easily get rid of your clones, and you have to wait for cooldown. You can't teleport away. There's a lot of cons here. The other way, and the most important way, is having 1 clone designated for safety, good healing, good line of sight, and another clone that's a bit more dangerous in their face or a good kind of flank spot for your clone to do a lot of damage. And this allows you to kind of have this nice cooldown with them, always keeping 1 alive and then replacing that 1 that's going to die a bit more often, but is also a good way to get a quick teleport out or just a different vantage point for the enemy team or your own team. The biggest mistakes I see by far are people just putting clones down for no reason, putting them in the line of fire on the payload. People are shooting there. There's a lot of, I mean, I've watched a lot of Loki games and people make very bad errors here, but learning how to use your clones with your runes to get the maximum coverage, but more importantly, obviously not putting them in horrible spots. All right, class is over. I'm going to take the glasses off. We're going to head into what are the most broken spots for clones on every single map. Now, these are the spots I personally use, and I know a lot of the better Lokis use as well. And when I first made this, it was like an hour long. I explained all the spots. I was kind of running through the maps, and I felt like I don't know if anybody would watch that. And so let me know now down in the comments below. Or I guess if this video gets like good sub numbers and likes and all that good stuff, then I'll take that as like evidence to go ahead and release that video. I think it's pretty cool. But for now, we're going to kind of rapid fire through all the maps, and I'm going to show you guys the spots pretty quickly. All right, so first up, guys, we have the Empire of Wakanda map, this map where we push this first point. And these are some of the spots that I highlighted. Really, there's so many spots to talk about, but being the main ones. This bush is insanely good for honestly both offense and defense. A lot of people like to kind of hide up in the building right in front of the bush or on that little part, but you actually want to break that and you can fire down when you're on defense. Very good location. It's green. Loki's green. It was made for each other, right? But you just have very good coverage of kind of the entire map. If somebody tries to flank you over to the right side, you have coverage over there as well if they TP. So definitely this is a prime spot that you should be using if you're not using, and this is probably one of the more, you know, obvious spots. Now for the second spot, again, as you rank up, get higher, you should be seeing this a lot more, but this entire map was made for Loki. It's all high ground work, and so you're able to put your clones on top of these buildings up here, again, for both offense and defense. So you're able to, you know, if your team is pushing up this path with the payload, you're able to fire at the defense that is coming down that path. But same goes for defense, right? This is one of my favorite locations for defense. You can swap around into the different buildings for different vantage points. So it's like really cheeky to use. People have to look up. When they're looking up, your team is barraging them. So this is just a high ground spot that you want to use. I could have gone over 100 spots on this map, but really when you get inside, it's just a little bit of the high ground there. A couple cheeky spots I can go through on another video. But these are kind of the main ones for this particular map. Other than when you get to the final point, I will say these two little flower vases here, definitely good. Just you could put, you know, Loki's kind of anywhere in this entire room, up there in the back or on top of these, just to fire down. Again, if you put them down low, they're not going to get a lot of damage and healing done for your team or against the opponent, but also they're going to die very easily. So just take a few seconds, look up and place them above on these pots. All right, next up, we've got Yggdrasill's Path, and this is probably one of my favorite Loki maps in general. Just it was made for him. It's themed after him, right? Now, the spot I'm going to show you, I'm going to actually cover here in a second on my own gameplay quickly. But this is a very good spot on both defense, so you can use this, you know, to heal your team or whatever from the back. But this is actually my favorite offense spot. So you come around the back and you flank their healers, and I'll show that more in a second. But I want to talk about this spot on defense kind of a little bit further up, because back here you're not able to get as much of a view, you know, from flanking and being with your team. So right here, instead, placing one over there and then one way back here, that one is never going to get destroyed, and it's got really good reach. So as they kind of come up that path, you're able to heal your team and deal damage, and then you kind of want to play the high ground from that point on. Over here, once they push a little bit further, you can use a lot of this. It's all kind of breakable, but these little statues are not breakable. And they have massive coverage on offense and defense as well. So I love to flank behind and use these spots against them, again, with like 3 healers. Or if you're obviously on defense, this is just the spot kind of where you want to hang out instead of down low. And then if it pushes even further, love this little rock here. It is breakable, but love this rock, defense and offense once again, in this cheeky little bush, right? And this gives you full coverage on the path when they come in, healing and damage. And then also, if your team was able to push up, the enemy team loves to run through that little rock entrance right there. So just barraging that from both these spots. Typically, they don't look over there. And then lastly on this, obviously, this little crevice thing up here, this little table top, whatever I want to call it, is like one of the best spots, offense, defense. It is so out of the way. They have to focus you. You've got an out. You can teleport, you know, back over to this right side if you want to go with your team on offense. On defense, you can go to the left side, and it gives you like full coverage. You probably don't want to put both clones there unless you're doing a lot of, barraging damage, but that is a super good spot. But that is going to take us to our next map. Again, all these maps have a lot more spots. These are kind of like the highlighted ones. This one here is this whole spot on defense and offense is, I think, the best Loki map in the game. But this is how I get a lot of flank kills. If you have a hard time getting this point, this makes it really easy. But this whole map, Loki loves. A lot of high ground as well. The spot up there on that box and these rooftops make it really easy. So if the teams push in, you're able to deal a lot of damage. Again, out of the way. They're not going to be looking at that. Penny nests are typically resting right there, so you can get rid of those quite easily. And you can place these while invisible, so it's going to be really tough for them, to see you while you place them. You can also obviously place them up high if they're on defense. And I'll show you a flank route when we get to my gameplay here in a moment. And then whenever you get pushed up a little bit more, I love this kind of back spot all the way towards your defensive spawn. So putting it right there, again, offense or defense. And you have a guy up there. You can see my other clone on the screen. And it gives you like full just coverage of that entire side of the map. And once you get back even further here, you've got this whole section. And this up here is very good for placement. People don't look up there. You get huge coverage of the point, offense and defense. So if you're offense, you can kind of set up right there. If your defense, set up before the team arrives, have a lot of coverage down in that area. Now, Klyntar is not the best map. I like to obviously open up right here. You can also place one on the ground for some line of sight. This is always really good because you just get immense damage going on from up here. You can drop down behind, so there's a bunch of little cheeky areas, to kind of hide, and you shouldn't be dying too much from this spot, which is nice too. And you deal a good amount of damage. This spot's obvious, not a lot of other cheeky spots. You can go on top of this box over here. It all has pretty good stuff, but you're kind of just hanging out with your team on this map mostly. But if there's a spot, this would be kind of the spot that I would highlight on this map. So because, again, there's the health pack and you can kind of teleport around. Now, this back little location here, offense and defense, you can kind of set up on these kind of high parts. That one right there is going to die a lot, but this guy in the back doesn't die much, and you have a lot of just coverage over there, offense and defense, to kind of rain down and get, again, healing and damage, which is important. You can place some high over on that other part of the map, but on this back cavern part, they're all going to die, but on top of this cavern, if you're on defense, going to really put a lot of pressure on them as they're coming down through that cave, and they don't look up a lot, so I do like that spot. You can kind of just place them on top of the mushrooms, though. Outside of that, that's my typical route. And that's going to take us to Spider Island. Now, there's so many spots that I want to tell you guys, but, we'll be brief here. But yeah, so on top of the rooftops here, Spider Island, there's so many cheeky spots to put your clones. And it just makes them look up, and then they get pelted by the Black Panther in their face, which is great. You can put them on any of those rooftops. A couple spots people don't know is you can place them actually really high up, so way up there, and you get massive coverage. So as they're pushing up that point, you're able to kind of back up and put them higher and higher, including this little back spot up there that I like a lot. And definitely just solid spots all around that have extremely good coverage, and they're not going to die. I think that's the important part. And then best of all, you can kind of tell you too if things get rough. So these rooftops are always a safe and solid bet. When they push in a little bit, you can set up here. You can go on offense or defense. On offense, it's tricky because they're like, where the hell is this fire coming from? But on defense, you're able to set up and get a clone on this rooftop. And check out this coverage on this guy, man. This guy is able to hit, obviously, anything in their backline or on defense if you're trying to protect yourself. And it goes beyond that payload over there. So you're able to deal damage and heal all the way from that guy. You can place them both there, and they're not going to see it very often. That is an elite spot that I like to use. All right, Midtown. This is typically my MVP map. I get a lot of MVPs on this map. When it opens on defense, you're able to stealth, and your team's not going to take a lot of heavy fire, so you can kind of go behind them. And as they make this first push on the payload, you can just set up your clones right here and typically get 1 or 2 picks, or at least deal enough damage to be annoying, and then you just go invisible, take a left, and get out of there and go heal and stay with your team. And then this spot right here, so you can actually go underground. I didn't show me getting here, but you can go underground and teleport up in this hole, and this gives you access to make it your domain, man. Like, you are completely controlling this whole place, because look at these Loki spots. You just have complete access over there, and that whole middle ground, the high spot, very, very good. Back here, cheeky little offense flank spot. If you put both of your guys on the on the subway here, and keep in mind you're probably invisible doing this. They have coverage on this whole back area against the defense, but also into there. It's a little spot that I like as when things get super tight there. I don't know if you've been, you know, where everybody's right there and you're trying to hold that one spot. If you go behind them, you can typically get a lot of picks in that little area. All right, we're going to go to domination now. It's not like my favorite thing with Loki. I'll show you a couple spots. I'm going to skip Royal Palace. There's the one with the tree, and you can put him behind the tree. It's a good spot. Other two maps are not that great for Loki. Too many breakable objects, and it's just go high ground. Not a lot of good clone spots. Hydra base, though, on this map, I love up here. Very good spot for just insane coverage. If you split your clones up, I mean, you're able to completely dominate. Keep in mind, in domination, your clones are going to die a lot more. They have time to focus them, unlike objective maps like Payload. But this one, definitely one of my favorite spots. Now, in this map, this is one of Loki's best as well. Kind of just hang out on the high ground. You know, that whole spot up there, you've got complete rain down here. And the reason why it's so good is you're able to teleport around. I think that's kind of the whole thing. If people do decide to push you and waste time to go after you, especially in a team fight, you can just hop to some other location. I like these pillars as well. This map does change, but these are kind of like my favorite spots within them. And then you got this map inside, right? You can put them up high here. Definitely just place them out of the way so they don't die to just oncoming fire. But you can put them there, get rid of this breakable object. And you have access to the point completely from the up high spots, which is great. And then also if they are coming through the door, you know, if you've won the map, really good. I mean, look at all the kind of barrage damage you can do there. Last but not least, a couple stuff on the Wakandan domination map. This map is goated because you've got just complete access from these stone pillars. Health back, circle, up here. You have someone diving you, you know, Moon Knight going after you. Pop up here, got the high ground. And then this one right here, I've got them on both the pillars. Typically my favorite spot. There's not a lot of good spots here, but on this one at least, you're able to deal damage to all the different places that can go, and you can hit a lot on the point for healing and damage. Again, domination, not the craziest with Loki clone spots because it's just so quick paced, but these would be my personal favorites. All right, now quickly before we spectate the rest of Prince, I was going to show you a couple of my own routes, my own gameplay. You guys want to see some of my own gameplay. I'll have more like full matches for you guys if you want to see that. But these are a couple Grandmaster games where, you know, flanking is what kind of won us the point or the game, and it kind of putting the use to some of the stuff I just showed you. So on this particular one, typically you're going to want to have 3 healers if you're going to be leaving your team. I only have 1 here, but it's Cloak and Dagger. And this map, very comfortable with what I do here. So I always love to take this kind of first back point whenever the map starts to look for pity nests, help them out. And I do the same thing almost always. I set up kind of my Loki turrets here, and I just barrage them because my team is pushing through this blue part here. And on this particular matchup, right, they weren't looking back, and sometimes they don't look back. I try to go for the supports first. Spider-Man, because of my team comp, I knew I had a little bit of a dive comp, so I could be a bit more aggressive. I was able to heal the Spider-Man there, get the 3rd kill on the team, take down the Invisible Woman, and at this point, they're done, right? They've got no DPS, no supports. Grit's running away. Thor goes down too. So, you know, that's one example of just flanking behind them. Super simple, not doing anything crazy here. They're just not looking back, and the lower rank you are, the more you can get away with stuff like this. Another example, we've got 2-2. We're kind of doing our final push here, and we're on offense, and I'm going to be coming around this backside as our team. You can see the payload on the bottom there. I'm going to come around this backside, and I'm waiting right here for their entire team to push up. Keep in mind, I've got 2 healers, so I'm allowed to be a little bit more away from the team on this important battle. And all I do, guys, is I'm back at their spawn. Their team hasn't died. They're focused on stopping that point. They're focused on everything going on in front of them. And I mean, look at this. I cleaned up, I think, 4 of them here, right? Was able to put my rune stones when the moonstone finally noticed me. And I took down 4 of the teams there. We were able to push up the rest. So sometimes it's about, like, you know, leaving your team, being able to heal. Both of those spots that you've seen so far, I had access to heal the team as well. And so you got to be, you know, you got to be smart with that, having access to your team. I think on this particular matchup, I went crazy too. Yeah, what I have here, 21k damage and 14k healing. So, you know, not the best healing, but you know, definitely did okay. So it's about, if you have 3 supports, it just makes a big difference. If you have 2, you can still do the job pretty well. And lastly, I've got this Yggdrasill path that I was kind of talking about. This is on offense. You know, defense kind of showed you the path, but you can look 0-0. The game just started. they're all there. I have 2 more supports on this map. I'm the 3rd one. All I did was come invisible over here, and I thought to myself, maybe I could get a couple picks on these supports and open up my team, kill the squirrel girl that does a lot of pressure, and I know my team's being healed from the other side, and I'm just putting pressure. By the time they notice me, I then pop my rune stone, so they have even more to deal with. They're not going to be going, you know, for the rune stones. They're going to just try to back out of there, and putting pressure and pressure and pressure, kill the Luna, pressure, and then my team's going to be pushing up at this point, right? Able to top them off if I want to, and we end up getting this point. My favorite times to flank as him isn't always getting the kill. I think for the rest of the map, I didn't like go off on my own. It's those initial pushes. And if you guys know, right, some of these initial maps, the toughest thing to do is to get past this first point, and these are some small examples. All right, so hopefully you learned, I don't know, a couple spots from there. Now let's go ahead and watch Prince. We're going to kind of break down one small match of this guy's gameplay to kind of see how the best of the best does it. I'm excited to spectate him too, because I play Loki, and I'm going to be curious if there's anything that either I learn or if that I can explain kind of what he's doing. So let's hop in. All right, so that's some of the more stuff that I do as the assassin kind of Loki, but I want to show this all put together, right? Good healing, good damage contribution, and what it looks like at the top level of play. So this is where we pick up one above all play here with Prince on Spider Island, and we're just going to jump into the very beginning of the match and watch kind of where he puts his clones, his placements, and what he does. All right, so let's go and see where he sets up, what the defense is going to look at. Remember, he's, you know, one of the best supports, but in a one above all lobby, you have some of the best DPS players, you know, tanks in the game. And it looks like he's setting up a little bit behind here, as I guess the offense is pushing pretty fast. And this spot does not surprise me. I put a lot of clones up here, but typically I'm not playing up here. So interesting to see, you know, he's got a decent visual of healing his team. And it's a good spot, I think, when they push in, which this offense team is doing right now. Very hyper-aggressive offense team, right? Typically lower ranks, you're going to see a lot of fight down low there, but they're just pushing right away. And even though it's really good, he's a sitting duck up there, so he's going to have to back up a bit. That's pretty rock solid clone placement, very fast at his clones. And quickly, I'll just pause to say, that's one thing you've got to learn if you want to get really good at Loki, is quick clone placement. You can't sit there fidgeting like, I want to get it in this right spot. You know, just kind of a general area where to put one in the hot spots that I showed you today. Getting quick at that is going to be important to practice. Now, right now, they obviously, he's just trying to keep his team alive, right? They're getting pushed in. He does have 3, you know, they got a 3 support package, so he could be a little bit more DPS heavy, but he's doing a good job with really good continuous heals here. And just trying to keep the tank alive, to be honest. I mean, the enemy team here is just focusing hard on that Doctor Strange. Obviously, solo tank, they've got the 2, which is going to be a bit tougher to keep them back. So he gets his lanterns out right before the ult, which is pretty smart because you're going to keep the healing on your team. And by the time you get out of this ult, you're going to be able to have access to those lanterns again. Obviously does the support ult as we would hope he's going to do, and not only take the offense ults. And he backs out to up here, right? Now, a couple reasons why he is... let me turn this down, dude. This is some loud volume on my side. Backing out, obviously got a lot of ultimates, and this is just the money spot. I mean, look how good of visuals you get from this spot. You can keep your team healed, you can do a lot of damage, and you can see where the flank's coming. You're not going to die unless they spend significant time coming up to you or focusing on you, and what your team is going to be able to do the damage back, right? So, love the spot here with all 3 of them up here. Just solid to do what you need to do and get done. Now, we've got the cloak on the enemy team, giving them that support, keeping them up, but because he dealt so much healing alongside the damage, able to get the ult again, and cloak and daggers just to buy that extra time that much more, get his team back here. Using all the cooldowns as fast as you can with those heroes is important, right? Get that bubble out for dagger. Kind of got pulled out by Bucky, so couldn't use everything there, but still not bad. And this is, you know, one thing I'll notice and want to call out here too, that, you know, it's all given by the situation. So you're going to have teammates pissed that you didn't use, you know, they call them your lanterns, right? Or rune stones on them or whatever it might be. It's all about the given moment, right? So at this moment, he could have, I guess, and I would disagree here, but he could put a Loki clone towards the payload and then activate it, and then he can give them, the lanterns as well. But then he ruins his flow of offense push because he would get rid of his own clones. And on top of that, when they start focusing him, he needs that to keep himself alive. So as Loki, you want to, sometimes you're going to want to share the clone with you and them, but don't feel bad using the clones on yourself. I do several times because that keeps kind of that machine gun Loki turret that much more. Obviously, they weren't pushing at that moment, so there was no need to do that. But even if they were, it just depends on the DPS output and the healing output. So nothing to highlight here outside of just reloading when he can. Pops an early Green Lantern. That was actually a bit shocking. Because now he's out of cooldown and they're coming up here, so I probably would have held back on that, but maybe thought someone was targeting him there. All right, has the Hela. He can focus all three of them on that Hela if he wants to, but instead he's going to focus on just keeping as much both damage and healing at once, which is a choice. You could definitely heal kill the Hela, but that was definitely the better play. And then there is that kind of clone Loki and reaching up with the Green Lantern as quick as possible. He was probably building up a lot of ult charge by shooting in that bubble down there too outside of the Hela clone as we saw earlier to pop yet another ult and kind of keep this at bay. Really hard point to keep at bay, so they're doing a good job here. Trying to get back up to his little nest there, right? The Loki nest. And he does successfully, so most of his team dies. That payload is going to push, so at this point he's going to have to make a decision kind of what to do here as the Strange does get back, so maybe they can keep him alive there. They do lose Adam. Might have the passive, might not. Doesn't look like it, right, with the dead icon. Gets the Eye of Agamotto, but gets a pick off it. A little too late, and unfortunately, Hela does finally focus him, and he does go down. They're going to lose his first point, but they took it to overtime, so definitely, they're not mad about that. His ult's back up to 70%, and, just with that, I mean, this guy, I would assume right now, by far, has the most healing out of the two other healers, and has done good DPS work as well, right? Now, obviously, it was tempting for him to copy the Hela, maybe use that. You just almost, I would say 90% of the time, 95 want to use a defensive ult. 5% of the time, use Hela, Storm, something, if you can get the pick or the point or whatever. Just doing some poke damage here, and, obviously, high rank plays can be a little bit different. Most lower rank play, you'd be down there. Kind of where this fight is now is where the first choke is for lower rank play, even Diamond Grandmaster. One thing I want to point out, people may not realize, I think it's common knowledge, there is a setting to change your, when you click your ult, you can kind of confirm that that's the hero you want. And that is super important to turn on, and it allows you to kind of hover over it for a little bit. So you can click Cloak and Dagger and wait a couple seconds before you use it. Definitely very important. Gets a Cloak and Dagger ultimate there to get the team fighting. A lot of people on this point, though, so he's in dangerous territory. Has to kind of get out of there and gets up to this rooftop, which is obviously one of the best parts about this map is the high ground that you get on everybody. Picks the Invisible Woman in the back, and right now, this is what I'm talking about. They're so focused on all the BS going down there. He's able to just rain down damage from the top and healing from his team. And super clutch, man. That was just sick. Watching him go from a bad spot from the Cloak and Dagger ult, use that cloak ability to go up, and then does the rest as Loki here. Places a Loki clone and is in disbelief. It's going to happen sometimes on these rooftops. They're kind of finicky. They can fall down. That was pretty comical to see, though. And I like this spot, man. I like this spot for the Loki barrage, as I like to call it. And yeah, okay, so this is something I'm trying to do more of too, that I think he does well. And sorry to pause so much, just want to explain some of this. He's constantly switching up his location, right? So he could have stayed up in that corner, but in his head, there's a good chance, right? Obviously, he's getting a better bird's eye view over here as well, but there's a good chance that they know he's up there. And so to constantly switch where you are as Loki so you can, keep them on their toes is pretty vital to get better at clone placement. All right, so they're losing the battle, but the point's still down there for now. Where is he going? Man, just great clone mobility. Is absolutely mastered clone mobility. Gets down a green circle for the team, trying to keep them alive. Like, he's doing a great balance at just continuous poke, DPS, and not ignoring his team, right? On clutch ultimates and whatnot. Copies the clone from that far away and starts to ult to hold it again. So another advantage of that high ground is just being able to see your team to be able to clone ult into them. It's in this nice little spot. Love the spot up here. Pretty obvious, though, this spot. So typically they're going to see you. Huge clutch ultimate from the other cloak. And there you go. That's the first hold. So although a little bit different play than you might see from maybe your matches because some of the choke points, I mean, that was masterclass, right? Took advantage of the high grounds, was able to heal and do damage. And then most importantly, timed his ultimates the perfect time. That's going to take communication with your team. If you don't have a mic, just type in, I'm going to ult first. I'll wait for you to ult, then I'll Loki ult, whatever it might be. Good stuff there, and a master hold on defense.
Time to switch things up.
All right, so we're going to look at offense now and see how he plays a bit different. I think both are good. I think offense, you can typically play a bit more, at least myself, a bit more offense Loki, a bit more DPS assassin Loki. But we'll see what he does here. There's a lot of cool little places you can go to here. So you're going to see this all the time as a good Loki player. They're going to go to Moon Knight. If they think you're carrying, that's the first thing that they're going to try to do. And here we go. Loki's on the payload. Such a good spot. They can just stay there and stay with your team. You know where your team's going to be. You can heal them easily. Something you guys definitely should always be having at least one clone there. And right now, instead of focusing on getting another clone down or anything, he's just trying to keep his team alive. Finally gets that second one. And they're getting good pressure here. All right, solid healing. I'm kind of just staying behind the point, right? Somebody's got to push the payload, and Loki's definitely not bad at it. Moon Knight getting down his clone, so he's going to have to readjust here. I'm curious. He's playing a bit more back than I would as a support Loki. Obviously, I play a different rank, different time, but yeah, this is what I would do. Now, with two other healers, you could do this a little bit safer, right? Because if he didn't have another healer, or two, this Bucky ult could run wild. But because he does, he's able to do the DPS side, kind of pick this backline, which is the best part of it. And then his team is still getting healed up decently. All right, he's going to try to get this Magneto pick. Decides to ignore it because he knows the healing's going to go in, and decides to go with the cloak ult into enemy spawn. So here's your aggression right there. Gets the pick with the ultimate. Love to see it. And really good lesson there for myself is just when to ditch a kill. You know, sometimes I can get obsessed with getting the finished pick, right? And there's that strange with no health, and their healers are pushing them up. I'm pushing them down, kind of wasting time. Like what he did there, just put the aggression on, let his team do the rest. At the end of the day, you have DPS heroes to do their job, right? Hopefully, I guess. All right, so they really don't need to go much further. Really one team fight more, and they've got it. And he's going to set up his guys here on the payload. And right now it's just pushing the aggressive, right? Like not placing them high. You don't always need to get your clones at high rooftops or whatever. Sometimes just getting with the team and to output as much healing as possible is all you need to do, and that's what we're seeing here. And honestly, his team's doing good. He's got good DPS here. His hell is going absolutely friggin' wild right now. I mean, look at all this bonus health he has because of it, right? I mean, dude, if there was a time for objective time or whatever, he would be at the top of that. And it looks like they're going to win pretty easily. Might get a little look out here for some quick kills at the end. And there you go. Gets the dub. So going to be curious to look at his overall damage numbers. Short game, what, 10-minute game. But I want to see what he did healing and damage-wise, because there are some other games where, he's got 50 kills or whatever. But this one was interesting just in general to see how he played a short game. And I think there's a lot of good learning lessons from that. Let's take a look here. We'll pause. Okay, dang. Well, he did look. I mean, he had 14k damage, which was almost the highest on the team. Only 12 kills, but whatever. I mean, he did the damage pretty solid. Not a lot of final hits. Just doesn't matter though. All of this though, most importantly, with 27k healing. So outside of the enemy who took more damage, he had the highest healing, right? Obviously on his team, and respectable healing for where they were at. So I mean, you're looking at this. This is what looks like a perfect split between good killing, good healing, clutch ultimates, and really just like a perfect kind of Loki game. And there you guys go. That's the #1 DPS Loki in Rivals. 9 KDA is insane. And hopefully you picked up something from this video, and maybe I taught you something as well. If you did, you can help me out by subscribing down below as we climb up to 100,000 subs, and or just like and coming by for the next video. Anyway, guys, have a good one. Have a great one. Until the next one, happy rivaling.